And welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports. We are joined by Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, all of the Salem news this week, talking North Shore sports. Gentlemen, welcome. Good to be seeing you again.
Good to see you, Bill. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you. Alive, right. Hey,
yeah,
speaking of looking good, Matt Williams, congratulations. You picked up the Tom Simpson Award. I knew Tom Simpson. I think I've met him a couple of times.
Simpson, eh?
Yeah, the from North Shore Baseball Umpires Association. So you picked up that award, Matt. Congratulations to you.
Oh yeah, awfully kind of those guys. I guess it pays dividends not to blast the officials on Twitter, right? This is the key. But no, I jest, of course. But Joe Gill of Lynn is a great guy. Was the president this past year and saw fit to bestow it upon myself, and has been great about the membership drive. Of course, the umpiring is an older man's game at this stage, and Joe's really done a great job of getting young guys involved and trying to expand the ranks. And certainly he had a tumultuous time as president of the Umpires Association. With a season canceled, and that season that was canceled supposedly being the first under these new set of rules, federation rules, pitch counts, everything. So Joe certainly had a lot to deal with, and to deal with me on top of it all and give me a nice award. I mean, that's awfully kind of him. And we should note that two other awards. One went to Mike Orlando, the umpire who's going to umpire, I believe, at the Little League World Series this year. Was supposed to go last year, and obviously that was canceled. So I think Mike's out this year. And of course, the lifetime membership award that went to Joe Cronin, who I believe, if I have my math right, is beginning his 47th year of umpiring. So that's pretty impressive too. I know a couple of years ago when Phil and I went to the football officials banquet, there were a few guys there that have been doing football officiating for 5 or 6 decades. So Joe is certainly chasing down those guys. And I think I've seen him out there umpiring football in the fall as well. So just another great guy. And we're all very lucky to be around so many great guys, on the North Shore sports scene, whether it's coaching or officiating or whatever else.
And just the fact that you got the award from Joe Gill, I mean, that's got to be special in itself, right?
Oh, what a great guy. I mean, certainly a man that, is a friend to everyone down at the Lazy Dog. That much we know.
Good guy. Good guy.
Although Joe, he might prefer Raleigh's these days. I don't know. I don't want to upset the apple cart there as far as the Lynn Tavern situation. I'm sure that he frequents each of them with equal aplomb, now that they're opening up again.
Yeah, I'm sure he's using all the right protocols. Joe would always be protocol correct wherever he would go.
No doubt.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I think I probably speak for Nick and Nino. Tell me if I'm wrong, but Willie is just the consummate professional to work with. And I tweeted this out, but I think these guys know how fortunate they are to have a guy like Matt covering baseball as he does, coming out with his weekly Around the Horn column, news, notes, nuggets. His stats are impeccable and they're thorough. He not only follows the high school kids, but when they go on to play in college or minor league ball, or even these guys who choose to play summer ball when their so-called playing days are over. He's a wonderful friend to high school baseball and high school sports in general here in the North Shore. And I think it's fantastic that he is being honored this way. And not only that he got this award from the NSBUA, but that so many people recognized it on Twitter or, reading the story that came out about him. I think it just speaks to Matt's character and what a lot of people think about him, not just us, but people realize how valuable he is and what a treasure he is to have on the North Shore sports team.
And still so very young too. I saw his age. It's unbelievable.
He's a young man.
Yeah. Hey, I know we want to get to spring sports here in a moment, but finally wrap up fall too. You guys announced some all-stars and had some all-star picks and so on. Jake Connolly of Fenwick, of Salem was player of the year for football. But Phil, maybe Phil, you, Nick, Matt, whomever would want to pick up on some of those postseason awards.
Yeah, sure. So, just because it was a different season, we didn't want to treat it any differently in terms of how we presented our all-star team or gave out awards, which we've been doing. These specific awards, what, Willie, is this 5 or 6 years, I want to say now?
I believe, yeah, the first year was the Marblehead Super Bowl year. So what was that, 2016? So
I want to say.
yeah,
my
5
first
years,
year,
I
I
guess.
think.
five
My first
seasons
year
now.
at the
Yeah, wow.
paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we think it's important to, we always want to have a player of the year. It's important to do that. But in a sport like football, I think there are so many different key components, as we all know, to making a team successful. And this we found was a way to, honor certain players who weren't just, valuable as all-stars, but more than that, and we could designate them with, lineman of the year, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, things like that. So, Matt and I, with some input from Nick, kind of put our heads together from watching the games and talking to coaches, talking to, people that we trust in the sport and all. And, obviously the eye test plays a big part in it too. We had a lot of great candidates this year. We put out a poll on Twitter, with 4 of what we thought were the top guys. And you certainly could have thrown Connor Cronin and Marblehead in there. We didn't, but he certainly could have been in that mix after the season he had with 16 touchdowns as a sophomore in 7 games. But, we put that out there. That generated almost, 800 votes, I think, on Twitter, which is, pretty good. And, everybody had their choice between James Guy, I should say, from St. John's Prep, Cole Terry of Ipswich, Jake Connolly from Bishop Fenwick, and Josh Robertson from Marblehead. All terrific players, all guys who were deserving. I think we felt that Josh was the MVP, or the player of the year, I should say, because of what he did in all 3 phases of the game.
Jake, you mean?
Jake, I'm sorry, who did I say? Josh? I apologize. Jake, yes, thank you. For what Jake was able to do offensively, defensively, and on special teams, where he was a threat to score every time he got the ball in any one of those situations. Fenwick was dominant, and they probably would have been pretty dominant without him too, but I don't know to that degree. And he just seemed to us, I think, to be the best definition, and correct me if I'm wrong, Willie, maybe in terms of how we view things, as the most complete player, if that's right. Not that Cole Terry was any less important Ipswich. If you actually broke down most valuable, he might have actually been the most valuable to his team. Look at a kid like the quarterback in Peabody, Mchale. How valuable was he? He was a sophomore. You wouldn't say he was necessarily an MVP type, but he was extremely valuable to the overall success of that team. So we felt that Jake was the best description of that. And, I certainly think we could have picked any of those kids. Josh Robertson had a fantastic season for Marblehead with 17 touchdowns. I think it was 1,230 yards, only 3 picks, running that incredible machine that they run in Marblehead. Colin Taylor was our lineman of the year, great player. Cole Terry, we made as our defensive player of the year because he was such a weapon at middle linebacker for Ipswich as well as at running back. But Jake kind of put all 3 facets together the best. Willie, you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, no, I think so. Obviously, Jake is just, like you said, a complete player, a guy who hits hard, who just, does it all 3 phases. And I think with the exception of Cole, most of our other guys that we considered were kind of one-way guys. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's more and more of those in the game these days. It's not the 90s anymore, but, when it comes time to determine something like this, and we had the MVP of 3 of the 5 leagues that we cover, regularly. We're up in the middle of this, and that being, Josh Robertson, Cole Terry, and Jake was the CCL MVP. And, of course, I guess I should say probably the 7 leagues we cover technically, right? Because you've got a Cal Kinney MVP or a co-MVP, whatever it was. That was a little bit silly. I think the Cape Ann League had 13 different players of the year of a 9-team league. I mean, that's, with all respect, that might be a little excessive, guys. And of course the NEC had a North and South MVP. So I guess we had 3 out of about 7 or 8, but nevertheless, 3 really deserving kids and two-way guys. And, the other guy that didn't really got, I guess if we had a MVP voting, a guy that might have finished in the top 5 or at least garnered some second or third place votes that bears mention is Brandon Pizzani from Peabody, who's a two-way guy. And in a full season, maybe would have broken the school receiving record that goes back to 1994. And just recently committed to play Division I ball at Merrimack College. So definitely deserving of a shout out there for Pizzani, and kind of in that same vein as Jake, but Jake is just that much better. And the thing is, Jake being a safety just strikes me as such a football player. I mean, Pizzani was a corner, great technique, knocking the ball down, great, taking balls out of the area, had 5 interceptions, right? But he didn't have nearly as many tackles as Jake had, and he certainly didn't hit as hard as Jake had. I mean, Jake played the safety position like a Lawyer Malloy and a Rodney Harrison. And to me, when you can add that kind of brand of hitting and of just toughness, I think, Phil mentioned, and I think he's right, Fenwick would have been pretty good even without Jake, right? But I do think Jake elevated everybody on that team. I think when you play with the edge that Jake has, that's contagious, and that makes everybody on the team tougher. That makes everybody on the team hit harder. And I just, when we finally kind of dawned on us, like dawn breaks over Marblehead around week 6 or 7, we said, wait a minute, Jake Connolly might be the player of the year. He might be the best player in the area. And we said, yeah, no, why didn't I think of this earlier?
Because we had a candidate almost from week 1 that we figured like, oh, this guy's going to win player of the year. Like he's got off to a great start and like never really tailed off after that. And then I think I mentioned to you, like, you know what? Jake has quietly had a pretty unbelievable season, or maybe not even quietly, but like we have to really take a look at this here. And, Nick what did you see Fenwick, Nick, a couple of times?
I only saw them once. I was going to say, you mentioned the team being dominant, Fenwick, but he was a guy that always stuck out no matter how dominant they were. He was always doing something. Like you mentioned, I saw him against Cardinal Spellman, and he reeled off 5 touchdowns that game, I believe, had a ton of yards, and he was just making an impact both sides of the ball, every play. You saw him doing something. So yeah, he had my vote, and I thought it was well deserved.
And think about all the players that Fenwick had. I mean, Tucker Destino, Chris Wilson, Angel Martinez, Stefano Fabiano. I mean, the list goes on and on for impact players for Fenwick this year, but there's usually always one guy that you can consider to be the guy, and that was Jake this year, not only at Fenwick, but in our opinion anyway, across the North Shore. And just to add to Willie's point about Brandon Pizzani, which I thought was great in terms of somebody who could get MVP votes, if you were looking for a real dark horse there, in my mind, it would have been Ryan Monahan. I only got to see him once last weekend of the season, but my goodness, is he fantastic. What a player he is. Yeah. He can impact the game without even touching the football, which to me is the sign of an elite player. He draws so much coverage to him on the outside. He's being double covered. He's being knocked off the ball, chipped at the line. And then if he tries to, run a little hook or a cut or whatnot, but he goes up, he gets balls in traffic. He can get by defenders with his speed. He's tall. Defensively, hits like a house. Can also really good in pass coverage, can come up and play the run. I really, really like the way Ryan played. And I think I said it that night that I watched the game. Hamilton Wenham was 2-4, but that record was so deceiving. Started off 0-3. Quarterback Carter Coffey got injured on the first series of the season. They used Marcus Norton, who's a wideout at quarterback, until he got hurt. And then they had to put in sophomore John Ertl. And they kind of were still kind of finding their identity for 3 weeks there. Once they got going, Hamilton Wenham played some great ball. Won 2 games and then nearly knocked off unbeaten Ipswich in the finale. In my mind, Carter Coffey had a great season, but I thought Ryan Monahan was an excellent player.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're picking an all-state Super 26 team this year, but based on what I saw, I would say all 4 of those guys, because they usually pick all seniors, would be deserving of Super 26 consideration. That would be Connolly, Pizzani, Monahan, and Terry. I mean, I would say at least 2, if not 3, or all 4 of those guys would have to be in that mix, along with some of those guys from obviously CM and some of those other teams. Like that's a hard list to crack, and sometimes it's based on who you know and whatnot. But I would say all 4 of those guys had that quality of season anyway.
And what's great too, Bill, is the regular fall season is not that far away. We'll be starting official practices in 3.5 months. And what a boatload of talent we have coming back this fall that we already know of. I mean, we've already mentioned Shea Lynch from Peabody, Josh Robertson, George Percy, James Duty, Connor Cronin from Marblehead. You have Xavier Baskin, Cam O'Brien from Swampscott. You have James Guy, Jackson Delaney, Jesse O'Fury from St. John's Prep, the 2 quarterbacks at St. John's Prep, James Carmelia of Danvers, Jace Dooley, and why am I forgetting the quarterback at Essex Tech?
LeBron.
I'm sorry?
LeBron.
LeBron, thank you. David LeBron coming back for Essex Tech. I mean, again, it goes on and on. And we haven't seen Pingree play in 2 years, and we know they're going to be talented.
Oh my God.
It's exciting time.
It's like having spring football, like college football for these guys getting ready for the fall season here. So
yeah. And we should say congratulations to outgoing Ipswich coach Kevin Fassett. He stepped down after they won the title, went undefeated for the first time in 50 seasons. 6-0 Cape Ann Bacon champs. Great campaign for the Tigers. His 3rd shared or outright title in his 6 seasons there. So good luck to Kevin, whether he coaches next year elsewhere or not.
Right. Yep. Congratulations to him and all the folks with the teams that did so well. We talked about that, I know, in more detail last week in the podcast. Let's just jump ahead here. Spring sports. What can you quickly now, Matt? I know on Tuesday they were going to try to play some baseball, but they did not because of the rain. But the high school baseball season is about ready to begin.
Yeah, knock on wood. I think we're going to have some games on Wednesday across the spectrum: baseball, maybe some lacrosse, maybe some softball, and certainly some on Thursday as well. So it's exciting times, and we'll see who the teams to watch are. I think certainly in the conference, the Northeast Conference, you got to look at Gloucester. Has Zach Abbott back. He won a school record 10 games last time out, right? And people forget that Gloucester won the NEC last time out. It was so long ago. So that could be a team that's primed for some big things. I think.
Did he have an older brother, Abbott, that played at Gloucester?
I don't know. He may have. We need.
I remember an Abbott from my era, but
family tree there. But I think you always have to keep an eye on Masconomet, right? I mean. Eric Sibic is a guy that could strike out a lot of guys. It's their first time through the league, but they certainly are a very interesting team, always stacked. I think Peabody is a team that's looking to bounce back. I mean, they didn't make the tournament in 2019 and didn't have a season in 2020. So they're going to have some hungry guys, some new faces over there. I think Ryan Knight is a guy to watch. It could be like a Triple Crown type guy. He had a ridiculous summer playing in the whatever they called that Legion League. It escapes me at the moment. The one that they started up, he hit 5 or 6 home runs, and one was like 500 feet. People were taking cover from in a game I went to at Beverly. So I'd keep an eye on him. I think Salem, with Bobby Jellison, he could lead the league in strikeouts easily, and Tommy Beauregard is a great shortstop. So Salem's another one to keep an eye on. I think you always have to keep an eye on the Catholic schools in baseball, right? I mean, Fenwick and St. John's Prep. St. John's Prep, no Super 8, so they can't get the Super 8 curse this year. So you got to figure they'd be one of the favorites automatically in Division I North, right? I mean, who could possibly stack up with the Prep? But there's just a lot of new faces to learn, and I think that's going to be the case for every sport and every team. I mean, I think baseball-wise, there's going to be a lot of lack of scouting, right? I mean, if you're a coach, normally you got a little bit of a book. You can look back and say, okay, how do we pitch this guy last year? Did he hit it inside, outside, high, low, whatever? Everybody's going to have to play this thing straight. there's not going to be any cheating. There's not going to be any game planning. We're just going to have to throw strikes and try to, set up the curveball naturally and all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, because most of these kids that are going to be on varsity, with last year having been canceled, there's no book on these guys. And I think that makes for a fascinating thing as far as the strategy goes. And I mean, maybe Phil and Nick can pick it up. I don't know if that exists exactly in a sport like lacrosse or tennis, in terms of the strategy, or if it's really more of a game plan team kind of thing. I don't know if you game plan for specific kids the way you might in baseball.
I went to my first lacrosse game this past weekend. Pingree's already started their season, and I saw them play Phillips Exeter. And the biggest difference I noticed was at the face-off X, where you're not fighting for the ball so much as it's like drop and you just go. It's like two guys. There's not that battle where everybody comes in and, sometimes you see 5-6 guys going around for the ball. It's just somebody wins it and that's it. You jumpstart the offense. So that negates some of that close contact for a prolonged period of time in that way. But maybe to just kind of copy what Willie did there with his teams. Looking forward to getting out this week and seeing some games. I think I have 3 games in a 2-day span that I'm doing. Bishop Fenwick, Steve Driscoll's team, they've been fun to watch the last couple of years. They start with St. Mary's on Thursday, so looking forward to watching them. Still have a lot of talent over there, led by Stefano Fabiano from the football team. So he's a senior this year, should be putting up some big numbers for the Crusaders. Beverly has a new head coach in Matt Reardon, former assistant JV coach. He takes over the program, and they're taking on Marblehead, 2-time defending champions, on Friday. John Wilkins has had a nice little run with the Magicians as of late, and he does have Will Shull back. Will would have to be certainly in the preseason player of the year conversation. He's going to Wesleyan for lacrosse, elite midfielder and scorer. So be fun to see what Will can do coming off of a player of the year season in boys hockey. Going to try to get over and watch St. John's Prep after that game, after the Beverly Marblehead game on Friday. I know Prep would have had a wagon last year where their season. I think they're probably not far off from that this year. John Pinchon and his guys are really hungry to show what they can do. And as we know, they always have all kinds of talent at St. John's. So they open up on Friday, looking to see them. Other new coaches we have in Salem. Nick, you talked to Craig the other day, Craig Gordon, former player.
Craig
For the
Gordon,
Witches. He's trying to, get that program going after Seamus Merck changed jobs and he had to step down. Richard Cook, they call him Cookie, is the new coach at Hamilton Wenham. Glenn Foster's back at Ipswich, of course. Danvers, West Chittick is still there. The Shidlers are in Peabody. Jeff Beckett in Swampscott. So a lot of the usual suspects. Pingree's off to a 2-2 start this year. So I'm just excited to get back out there and see some of the games.
Any relation to the Marty Cooks there for the Cooker?
No. He came from
Newburyport?
No. I think he was originally from Connecticut, and he's coached at really, really, really high levels of high school and college across on the West Coast, and then kind of worked his way back this way. He's been at Roxbury Latin most recently, but he had nationally ranked teams in California. It's funny, he got a head coaching job when he was 18 years old in California and turned a team that was winless into a national power. So looking to see what he can do with Hamilton Wenham.
I remember reading that story in the Salem News. I had forgotten some of it, though. Thanks, Phil.
You're welcome.
Hey, Nick Giannino, the Celtics pulled off that big win over the Spurs on Friday night. Jason Tatum was 60 points. It got me thinking. So now they're comparing that performance to Larry Bird's 60 points against Atlanta, which was back on March 12th of 1985. But I remember that game, and that was a great. And I remember it was being a shootout because I thought Dominique had more than he did have in that game because Bird had 60, but Dominique Wilkins of Atlanta ended up with 36 points in that game. But the ball was falling through the cylinder all night long. It was crazy.
That game was played in New Orleans.
Yes,
that wasn't even in Atlanta. It was in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's.
It's funny, Bill. they're almost like two, I wasn't around for Larry Bird's 60-point game, but I've seen highlights, and they're almost like two completely different performances, but stat-wise, almost exactly the same. They took pretty much the same amount of shots, had pretty close to the same percentage, hit almost as many threes as each other. I think 5 threes apiece. Free throws were pretty similar. So they got it done in the same sort of way. They were obviously two different types of games. I think Tatum kind of took that Kobe Bryant approach where his team was getting spanked, and he said, screw this. I'm just going to go out and do this by myself. And that's what he did. He caught fire a little bit, and they just rode him. I mean, after he got hot, they just kept feeding him, and he couldn't be stopped. It was really fun to watch. This was a game I was at, and I almost left in the third quarter. Had my column pretty much done. I said, they're going to lose, whatever. And they got it to 20 in the third, and I saw Tatum kind of cooking a little bit. The crowd started getting into it, and I said, geez, like they might come back and win this game. You could see the tides turning there in the third quarter, and sure enough, 60-point game, overtime win. And, that's kind of how the Celtics season has played out, just very unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, but Tatum's capable of hitting that 60-point mark. I wasn't overly surprised. I think it's more historic because he did it with the Celtics franchise. If Jason Tatum was playing for the Sacramento Kings and scored 60 points, might talk about it for a day or so, but this was a bigger deal because he matched Larry Bird and, the history with the franchise and all that. And I'll tell you right now, I think he's probably going to score over 60 points at some point and set that franchise record. He should have had 61 against San Antonio. He had an and one towards the end of the game that they called off and said that the foul was on the floor. He hit both free throws to get to 60. So should have had 61, but I think it's fitting that he tied Larry Bird's record. And I think he was very humbled by that. And, it was a great game. We'll see what they can do down the stretch here, but he's pretty incredible offensively.
Phil, shaking your head. What's up with that?
I'm Team Larry always.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm not comparing the two. I think
No, I
Larry's
know.
amazing, and
I don't want to be that old guy shaking his fist in a cloud either. But
no, Tatum's not. He hasn't quite reached Larry Bird's level by any stretch of the what
but
have
completely, and then this isn't a knock on Tatum. It's completely different styles of basketball, and
yeah, absolutely.
The 85 Celtics were basically fooling around till they got to the finals against the Lakers. I'm sure you probably know this, Nick, and I know Willie, Bill, you guys do, but Kevin Mchale had set the Celtics record 9 days earlier. He scored 56 against the Pistons.
Right.
And Larry said to him, "Why didn't you go for 60?" He's like, I had plenty. He goes, "Well, that was stupid because I'm going to go break it." And then 9 days later, he did. So
yeah, and you mentioned that. I'm sure Larry could have scored 60 if he wanted, or over 60 if he wanted to at another point. But I don't know. I just see Tatum. There's a lot of points being scored in the NBA right now, and
yeah, which is exciting. I mean, that's so much better than it was when the games were 75 to 67.
Yeah. I think what was it? The Wizards won a game the other night, like 154 to 141, and Russell Westbrook had 21 rebounds and 24 assists.
This is a true story, okay?
So the stats are really being boosted. But
one of my friends growing up had cut out, of course, long before the internet, we devoured the sports pages, and particularly the Agate page, the box scores. Bill, of course, you remember those.
I do remember those, yeah.
We poured over the box scores every morning, having breakfast. And I remember one of my buddies had cut out and taped to his bedroom wall the box score from Detroit and Denver in, 82 or 83? And it was the highest scoring game in NBA history, 186 to 184. And every once in a while we would be over at his house, and I'd sneak a peek. I'd be like, damn, Fat Lever had like 39 shots that night. So he made 18 baskets, but it took him 39 shots to get there, kind of thing. It was like looking at it, man, Kelly Tripucka, wow, holy cow, he had 51 points. That's crazy, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll get to 180s, but anytime they're up over 120, 130, that's pretty exciting.
It's sad to say this. I literally did not know that the NBA had instituted like a play-in round. I heard them saying the Celtics had fallen into like the 7th seed in the playoff round. I'm like, what the heck is that? I literally had no idea.
Yeah, it's almost like a wild card situation. I think they added it because of the shortened season, but it looks like they're probably they're probably going to roll with it for seasons on, as long as it's successful, which it seems like it is.
Looks like we have about a minute left. Any other comments, Phil or Matt? I know Matt was going to say something, I think.
No, we talked. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the crazy thing is about Tatum is he had no turnovers. That's more impressive because I feel like anybody, anybody in the NBA can score.
Well, he wasn't passing the ball.
The Booker kid had 80 points, right? Against the Celtics. Kobe, his
70.
All they wanted to do was let him shoot. He had 80, right? I mean, Tony Delk had a 50-point game once. Like, anybody in the NBA, if they take a million shots, can score a million points, right? But to not turn it over and actually win the game, I mean, that's more impressive. I think he took 37 shots and had something like 5, 6, 7, 8 assists. I mean, so he's touching the ball on that many possessions and didn't turn it over. That's crazy.
And he hit 20 of them, so he was over 50%.
Oh, I don't know. I
Did he
probably
go over 50?
Yeah, he went over 50, maybe low 50s, 52.
Okay.
I don't know if he did.
But
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know though, because when Isaiah hit 53, that was a big deal, and I think that might have broke the Pierce record. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. That's interesting. But going back to the high school scene, I just wanted to, throw a little bone to wrestling here. We are going to have a wrestling season in the spring. Good for those kids to get back out there. I think the numbers are a little bit down because kids have to choose between what sport they want to play in the spring now, but should be good. They're back out there, and we might see some outdoor meets. That's been a recommendation by the CDC. And if they, they're not required to go outside for the meets, but we might see some Friday Night Lights type situations.
Really, like the Von Erichs in Texas Stadium.
I know we gotta get the sportatorium out here.
Yes, exactly.
No, I'm
Make
thinking.
sure they don't leave any folding chairs around the circle.
How about beach wrestling? That would work, wouldn't it? Beach wrestling?
Not a bad idea.
I don't think you want to get sand in your headgear or anywhere else.
We got a mat, Matt. Come on. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know, but no, I do think we need to restage the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, at one of these meets. That's for sure.
I am down to clown with that.
On that phrase that pays, we'll wrap it up here at this time. Gentlemen, always good talking with you.
See you guys.